Trillion-Dollar Coach by Eric Schmidt, Jonathan Rosenberg, Alan Eagle. The story of Bill Campbell is not just about the man himself, but the profound and lasting impact one person can have when they commit to serving others. Known as the Trillion-Dollar Coach, Campbell influenced some of the most successful companies in history, including Google, Apple, and Intuit, by focusing on people first and foremost. His unique approach to coaching wasn't about management theory or flashy innovations. It was about trust, integrity, and a relentless belief in people. Campbell's methods combined emotional intelligence with business acumen, and his leadership style proved that creating value in relationships could translate directly into business success. This book distills the lessons Campbell imparted during his lifetime, showing how his principles can be applied universally, not just in Silicon Valley, but in any organization where people and results intersect. Campbell didn't just guide companies, he built cultures where individuals thrived and collective success became inevitable. This summary captures the essence of his legacy, teaching you how to lead with purpose, build unshakable trust, and drive exceptional outcomes. Lesson 1. Build trust. Trust is the foundation of every high-functioning team. Without it, even the brightest minds and most sophisticated strategies will falter. Bill Campbell understood this not as a theoretical concept, but as a practical, indispensable truth. Trust is what transforms a group of talented individuals into a cohesive force capable of extraordinary outcomes. It is not given automatically, nor can it be demanded. Trust must be earned through consistent actions, unwavering integrity, and genuine care for others. Campbell's approach to building trust was rooted in fierce loyalty and radical honesty, both of which required courage and emotional intelligence. His ability to call out the most powerful leaders of his time, including Larry Page and Eric Schmidt at Google, demonstrated his commitment to the greater good over individual egos. When Campbell sensed gaps in communication or alignment, he didn't hesitate to address them directly. However, he never did so abrasively. Instead, his honesty came with kindness, respect, and a shared vision of improvement. This created an environment where even the most critical feedback was not only accepted, but embraced. Trust building is not transactional. You cannot simply perform a series of actions and expect people to trust you in return. Trust grows organically over time through consistent vulnerability and an unshakable commitment to others' success. Campbell believed that leaders should prioritize relationships even if it means sacrificing short-term efficiency. This long-term perspective was not just about avoiding immediate friction, but about unlocking sustainable success. Relationships built on trust allow teams to work through disagreements, recover from setbacks, and innovate without fear. Stephen Covey's The Speed of Trust echoes this philosophy, highlighting how trust accelerates progress and reduces the wasted energy of uncertainty. Without trust, every decision becomes an uphill battle, requiring endless justifications and checks. With trust, momentum builds naturally as people align with shared goals. Campbell's actions mirrored this philosophy in ways that set him apart. He didn't just coach from a distance. He immersed himself in the lives of those he guided. He showed up for people not only in professional settings but also during personal crises, demonstrating that his loyalty extended beyond the workplace. For example, when Sheryl Sandberg faced personal tragedy, Campbell became a source of unwavering support, proving that trust is built on both competence and care. This echoes the leadership style of Abraham Lincoln, who during the Civil War not only made bold decisions, but also maintained personal connections with his generals and staff. Lincoln's empathy and loyalty created a sense of shared purpose that held his team together through one of history's most challenging periods. Trust also requires a willingness to make yourself vulnerable. This doesn't mean sharing every personal detail or compromising boundaries. It means showing your humanity. Campbell never pretended to be infallible. He openly acknowledged his mistakes and shortcomings, which made it easier for others to do the same. Vulnerability creates a sense of psychological safety, an essential element of high-performing teams. Google's Project Aristotle confirmed this in its research, finding that teams with high psychological safety outperform those with brilliant but insecure individuals. When people feel safe, they are more likely to share ideas, admit failures, and collaborate effectively. However, trust is fragile, and its destruction is swift and often irreparable. A single act of betrayal, dishonesty, or neglect can undo years of effort. That's why consistency is critical. You cannot selectively apply trust-building behaviors or only prioritize relationships when convenient. Your team must see your commitment in every interaction, whether in a high-stakes meeting or a casual conversation. This requires discipline and self-awareness. Are you showing up consistently? Are your words aligning with your actions? Campbell understood that even small moments matter. A leader who makes time to check in, listens intently, and follows through on promises earns trust incrementally but powerfully. To build trust, you must first embody it. Be reliable in your actions, transparent in your communication, and always willing to listen without judgment. Never use honesty as a weapon. Deliver the truth with empathy and the intention to help, not harm. When conflict arises, address it head-on, but from a place of respect. When others falter, offer guidance, not condemnation. Trust starts with you. Model the behavior you want to see in your team and commit fully to the relationships you are building. Over time, you will create an environment where people feel safe, valued, and empowered to do their best work. Lesson 2. Embrace conflict. Bill Campbell understood that avoiding conflict is the fastest route to mediocrity. Conflict is not the enemy of progress. Complacency is. Teams that suppress disagreements, whether out of fear or discomfort, ultimately stagnate. Campbell believed that productive conflict was a necessary ingredient for innovation, growth, and clarity. He didn't shy away from tough conversations, and he didn't allow his teams to avoid them either. At Apple, he often stepped into the fray during heated debates between Steve Jobs and other executives. These weren't trivial disagreements. They were critical moments where high-stakes decisions needed alignment. Campbell's role wasn't to eliminate the tension, but to channel it productively, ensuring that these disagreements sharpen the team's collective thinking rather than fracturing its unity. Conflict, when handled poorly, can devolve into personal attacks, resentment, or indecision. Campbell's genius lay in his ability to reframe conflict as an opportunity for improvement. He recognized that when people hold strong opinions, it's often because they care deeply about the outcome. Instead of letting that passion become divisive, Campbell taught teams to approach disagreements with respect and a shared commitment to finding the best solution. This approach aligns closely with Ray Dalio's principles, where radical transparency and open conflict are celebrated as essential tools for achieving excellence. Dalio's concept of an idea meritocracy, where the best ideas win regardless of hierarchy, echoes Campbell's belief that rigorous debate is the engine of progress. One of Campbell's most notable strategies was his insistence on focusing on the issue, not the individual. He refused to let conflicts become personal, and he held everyone to the same standard of mutual respect. This approach not only diffused hostility, but also kept the team's energy directed toward problem-solving rather than blame. For example, during product discussions at Apple, when engineering and marketing teams clashed over priorities, Campbell would step in to mediate. He didn't pick sides. Instead, he reframed the debate by asking questions like, "What's best for the customer?" This higher-level perspective forced the teams to align on shared goals rather than defending their silos. By keeping the focus on outcomes, Campbell ensured that these debates generated solutions instead of lingering resentment. The importance of embracing conflict is further validated by research in organizational psychology. Studies have shown that teams that engage in constructive conflict outperform those that avoid it. For example, Google's research on high-performing teams found that psychological safety, the ability to speak up without fear of retaliation, was the most critical factor for success. Teams that feel safe to challenge each other's ideas, knowing their input will be respected, produce better decisions and stronger results. Campbell's leadership created exactly this kind of environment. He cultivated psychological safety by modeling vulnerability and encouraging open dialogue. His teams knew that disagreements were not only acceptable but encouraged as a way to refine ideas and uncover hidden opportunities. Conflict is not without risk. Poorly managed disputes can lead to fragmentation, low morale, and diminished trust. That's why, as a leader, you must approach conflict with intention and skill. You cannot allow emotions to dictate the conversation, nor can you avoid the tension altogether. Your role is to create a structured environment where conflict is safe, focused, and solution-oriented. Stay neutral and resist the urge to impose your own opinions prematurely. Instead, act as a facilitator, guiding the discussion toward common ground while ensuring that every voice is heard. Remember that your ultimate goal is not to eliminate disagreement but to extract the value it offers. Embracing conflict also requires courage from you as a leader. It's tempting to avoid confrontation for the sake of harmony, but this only delays inevitable problems and stifles creativity. You must model the behavior you expect from your team by addressing issues directly and respectfully. When you lean into conflict with the right mindset, you demonstrate that disagreement is not a failure but a step toward better outcomes. Create a culture where debate is normalized, where the best ideas rise to the top through rigorous discussion, and where alignment is achieved not through suppression but through understanding. Conflict is a tool, not a threat. When you treat it as an opportunity to clarify thinking, test assumptions, and improve outcomes, you unlock the full potential of your team. Don't shy away from tough conversations. Face them head-on, armed with respect, curiosity, and a relentless focus on solutions. The greatest innovations and breakthroughs often emerge from the friction of competing perspectives, and as a leader, it's your responsibility to harness that energy and channel it toward progress. Lesson 3. Care personally. Bill Campbell believed that business is personal, a perspective that defied the cold, transactional norms often associated with corporate leadership. To him, success wasn't just about meeting targets or driving innovation. It was about nurturing the people behind the work. He knew that a team's potential could only be realized when individuals felt seen, valued, and supported as whole people, not just as job titles or contributors to quarterly goals. Campbell's ability to care personally for those he led set him apart as a coach and leader, and it became one of his most defining characteristics. Caring personally doesn't mean blurring boundaries or becoming overly involved in your team's lives. It means taking the time to genuinely understand the human beings you work with, their aspirations, fears, and challenges. Campbell mastered this art by treating every interaction as an opportunity to deepen trust and connection. He didn't just ask about work deliverables. He asked about families, personal dreams, and the struggles his team members faced outside the office. His ability to weave empathy into leadership made him a cornerstone of support during pivotal moments. When Sheryl Sandberg faced unimaginable personal tragedy with the sudden loss of her husband, Campbell didn't merely offer platitudes or professional advice. He showed up as a compassionate presence, reminding her of the importance of balancing her healing with her responsibilities. This level of care is not about fixing someone's problems, but about standing by them as they navigate their challenges. Caring personally is often misunderstood as a soft skill or a nice-to-have in leadership. Campbell proved that it is, in fact, a critical driver of team engagement and loyalty. People who feel cared for are not only more motivated, but also more resilient during tough times. This idea aligns closely with Brené Brown's Dare to Lead, which emphasizes the power of vulnerability and empathy in leadership. Brown argues that leaders who allow themselves to connect emotionally with their teams create environments of trust and psychological safety. When people feel safe and supported, they are more willing to take risks, share innovative ideas, and commit fully to their work. Campbell's approach also resonates with the philosophy of Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek, which emphasizes the importance of servant leadership. Sinek's exploration of human biology and team dynamics highlights how leaders who prioritize the well-being of their people foster stronger, more cohesive teams. Campbell embodied this by putting his team's needs before his own, often going out of his way to ensure that individuals felt valued. He wasn't afraid to have hard conversations or give direct feedback, but his underlying care made those interactions constructive rather than demoralizing. His teams trusted him because they knew he always acted with their best interests at heart. Caring personally does not require grand gestures. It's about consistent, everyday actions that demonstrate your commitment to the people you lead. Campbell's version of care showed up in small but meaningful ways, remembering personal details, celebrating achievements, and being present during difficult times. When someone on his team was going through a rough patch, Campbell didn't see it as a distraction from work, but as an opportunity to strengthen the relationship. This perspective allowed him to cultivate loyalty that went far beyond professional obligations. His teams weren't just working for a paycheck or a promotion, they were working for a leader who genuinely cared about their success and well-being. As a leader, you must be intentional about how you demonstrate care. It starts with listening. Are you truly hearing what your team is saying, or are you rushing to respond? Empathy requires slowing down, setting aside distractions, and being fully present in the moment. Caring personally also means recognizing and appreciating your team's humanity. Celebrate their milestones, acknowledge their challenges, and show gratitude for their contributions. These simple acts create a ripple effect, fostering a culture of mutual respect and connection. Caring personally is not a weakness. It is one of the greatest strengths you can bring to your leadership. It builds loyalty, strengthens trust, and fuels engagement. Your team will go above and beyond not because they fear consequences, but because they feel a genuine connection to you and the shared mission. Invest time in building real relationships. Make the effort to understand the people you lead, not just their roles. When your team knows you care, they will not only perform better but also help create a culture where everyone thrives. Lesson 4. Encourage growth. Bill Campbell's extraordinary ability to spot potential in people and inspire them to achieve beyond their perceived limits was the hallmark of his leadership. He understood that growth doesn't happen by accident. It is the result of intentional effort, encouragement, and the willingness to step into discomfort. Campbell made it his mission to push his mentees to confront their weaknesses, embrace challenges, and rise to new levels of competence and confidence. He saw potential not as a fixed attribute, but as something that could be nurtured and expanded with the right guidance. His belief in others was not just a sentiment, but a call to action, and those he coached often found themselves accomplishing feats they once thought impossible. One of Campbell's most famous examples of encouraging growth was his influence on Marissa Mayer during her tenure at Google. Mayer credits Campbell with urging her to take on larger roles, managing increasingly complex teams and responsibilities. While she initially hesitated, Campbell's faith in her capabilities gave her the courage to take the leap. This pivotal step in her career not only enhanced her leadership skills but also set the stage for her eventual rise to becoming the CEO of Yahoo. Campbell's approach was always about helping people see possibilities they couldn't yet envision for themselves. He didn't just offer encouragement, he held them accountable to their potential, ensuring that they followed through on the challenges he set before them. This principle aligns seamlessly with Carol Dweck's mindset, which explores the transformative power of cultivating a growth mindset. Dweck's research shows that individuals who view their abilities as malleable rather than fixed are more likely to embrace challenges, persist through setbacks, and achieve higher levels of success. Campbell embodied this philosophy, consistently reinforcing the belief that effort and learning could unlock new opportunities. His encouragement wasn't limited to words. He created environments that fostered growth by giving his team members stretch assignments, tasks designed to test and expand their capabilities. These assignments were not arbitrary. They were carefully chosen to match the individual's strengths and areas for improvement, providing both a challenge and a path to growth. Encouraging growth also requires the courage to let people fail. Campbell understood that failure, when handled constructively, is one of the most powerful teachers. He didn't shield his mentees from mistakes. He allowed them to face the consequences while providing the support and feedback they needed to learn and improve. This approach is reminiscent of Thomas Edison's development of the light bulb, where repeated failures were reframed as steps closer to success. Similarly, Campbell believed that each setback was an opportunity for growth, provided the individual was willing to reflect and adapt. He often said that growth requires discomfort, and leaders who avoid pushing their teams out of fear of failure do them a disservice. Feedback was another critical element of Campbell's growth strategy. He didn't just provide generic praise or vague critiques. He gave specific, actionable feedback tailored to each individual's needs. This level of detail ensured that his mentees knew exactly what they needed to work on and how to improve. Campbell's feedback was always framed with respect and the belief that the person could rise to the occasion. This aligns with the principles outlined in Kim Scott's Radical Candor, which emphasizes the importance of providing direct yet caring feedback. Scott's approach mirrors Campbell's insistence that honesty, delivered with empathy, is essential to fostering growth. As a leader, you must believe in the capacity for growth in yourself and others. Your role is not to shield your team from challenges, but to guide them through those challenges with support, feedback, and encouragement. Offer opportunities that stretch their abilities, even if they initially resist or doubt themselves. Celebrate their progress, not just their achievements, reinforcing the idea that growth is a continuous journey rather than a destination. When mistakes happen, and they will, respond with constructive guidance rather than blame. Use every experience, good or bad, as a chance to help your team refine their skills and expand their horizons. Growth is never comfortable, but it is always rewarding. You must create an environment where your team feels empowered to take risks, confront their limitations, and strive for more. Encourage them to embrace challenges as opportunities to learn and evolve. Believe in their potential even when they don't yet see it themselves, and hold them accountable to that belief. Your ability to nurture growth in others is one of the greatest gifts you can offer as a leader, and it will not only transform their careers, but also create a culture of continuous improvement and excellence. Lesson 5. Focus on the team. Bill Campbell believed with unwavering conviction that the success of any organization depends on the strength and cohesion of its teams. To him, the collective triumph of a team always outweighed the brilliance of any individual. This principle guided his leadership philosophy and shaped his approach to coaching some of the most influential companies in the world. Campbell's emphasis on teams stemmed from a deep understanding of human dynamics and an appreciation for the power of collaboration. He knew that the best results emerge when individuals align their talents and efforts toward a shared purpose, leaving egos and personal agendas behind. Campbell frequently reminded leaders that your title makes you a manager, your people make you a leader. This distinction underscored his belief that leadership is not defined by authority, but by the ability to inspire and unify a team. At Google, he often worked with executives to ensure that their teams operated as cohesive units, particularly during times of rapid growth and change. He emphasized that a leader's primary role is to create an environment where everyone feels empowered to contribute, collaborate, and excel. This mindset was critical in maintaining alignment and preventing silos, even in a company as large and complex as Google. One of Campbell's most striking examples of team-focused leadership occurred at Apple, where he played a key role in bridging the divide between the marketing and engineering divisions during critical product launches. These groups often had competing priorities and clashed over resources and timelines. Campbell stepped in as a mediator, not by imposing solutions, but by fostering mutual understanding and alignment around the company's larger goals. His ability to unify these teams ensured that Apple's launches were seamless and successful, solidifying the company's reputation for excellence. His approach exemplified his belief that teamwork is not about achieving consensus at all costs, but about aligning diverse perspectives to create the best possible outcome. This philosophy aligns closely with Patrick Lencioni's The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, which highlights the dangers of prioritizing individual performance over team cohesion. Lencioni argues that trust, healthy conflict, commitment, accountability, and attention to results are the pillars of a high-performing team. Campbell embodied these principles, particularly in his insistence on trust and accountability. He held leaders responsible not only for their individual success, but for the success of their teams as a whole. This emphasis on collective achievement created cultures where collaboration thrived and competition among peers was minimized. Focusing on the team also means recognizing and addressing the barriers that can undermine cohesion. Campbell was adept at identifying and neutralizing egos that threatened team dynamics. He understood that even the most talented individuals could become liabilities if their behavior disrupted collaboration. Instead of allowing star performers to dominate or overshadow others, he worked to ensure that every team member felt valued and included. His leadership style reflected a balance of humility and decisiveness, showing that no one, regardless of their role, was more important than the team itself. As a leader, your responsibility is to cultivate an environment where teamwork is not just encouraged, but ingrained in the culture. This starts with setting clear expectations and aligning everyone around a shared vision. Your actions must consistently reinforce the importance of collaboration over individual ambition. Acknowledge and reward team successes rather than singling out individuals, and create opportunities for cross-functional partnerships that break down silos. When conflicts arise, address them promptly and constructively, ensuring that disagreements are resolved in a way that strengthens the team rather than dividing it. Focusing on the team does not mean neglecting individual development. Rather, it involves channeling individual strengths toward the greater good. Help your team members see how their contributions fit into the larger picture, and encourage them to support one another in achieving collective goals. By fostering a sense of shared ownership and mutual accountability, you build a team that is resilient, innovative, and unstoppable. The team's success is your success. As a leader, you must prioritize the needs of the group above your own and above any single individual. Create a culture where collaboration is the default, egos are kept in check, and everyone works together to achieve something greater than they could alone. Leadership is not about elevating yourself. It is about elevating the team. Lesson 6. Simplify priorities. Bill Campbell was a master at cutting through the noise and distilling complexity into clear, actionable priorities. He understood that one of the greatest threats to success is the temptation to chase too many opportunities at once, diluting focus and energy. Campbell's leadership philosophy revolved around the principle that simplicity drives results. By narrowing efforts to the most impactful objectives, he helped organizations and individuals achieve clarity, alignment, and measurable progress. His ability to guide teams towards simplicity was not just a skill, but a discipline, one that became a cornerstone of his coaching. During his time at Intuit, Campbell's ability to simplify priorities played a pivotal role in the company's success. The leadership team was spread thin, chasing multiple product ideas that competed for resources and attention. Campbell stepped in to refocus the team, helping them streamline their efforts on a few key initiatives that had the highest potential for impact. This shift allowed Intuit to channel its resources effectively, leading to greater innovation and market success. By eliminating distractions and ensuring everyone was aligned around the same goals, Campbell proved that simplicity isn't just a virtue, it's a strategic advantage. This principle aligns closely with Greg McKeown's essentialism, the disciplined pursuit of less, which argues that success is not about doing more, but about doing better. McKeown emphasizes the importance of prioritizing the vital few over the trivial many, a concept Campbell embodied in his leadership. Both Campbell and McKeown advocate for ruthless prioritization, recognizing that every yes to a new opportunity is a no to something else. Campbell's strength lay in his ability to help teams identify what truly mattered and discard the rest, a practice that requires both clarity of thought and the courage to make tough decisions. Simplifying priorities is not just about reducing the number of tasks or goals. It's about ensuring alignment across the team. Campbell believed that clarity is contagious, and he worked tirelessly to communicate priorities in a way that everyone could understand and rally behind. He ensured that leaders were not only aligned at the top, but also capable of cascading that focus throughout their organizations. When every team member understands the why behind the priorities, they are more engaged, motivated, and effective in their execution. Campbell's insistence on clear communication transformed strategic goals from abstract concepts into actionable steps. The importance of simplifying priorities is further supported by studies in organizational behavior. Research shows that teams with too many competing goals experience lower performance, higher stress, and diminished morale. In contrast, teams that focus on a small number of well-defined objectives achieve greater cohesion and success. Campbell understood this intuitively and made it his mission to prevent teams from falling into the trap of overcommitment. His approach also aligns with the famous 80-20ths principle, which states that 80% of results come from 20% of efforts. By focusing on the right 20%, Campbell helped teams unlock their full potential. As a leader, you must embrace the discipline of prioritization. This starts with identifying the most important objectives for your team or organization. Resist the urge to pursue every opportunity or react to every new idea. Instead, evaluate each initiative based on its alignment with your core mission and its potential for impact. Once you've established your priorities, communicate them with absolute clarity and revisit them regularly to ensure they remain relevant and achievable. Simplifying priorities is not a one-time exercise, but an ongoing practice that requires vigilance and commitment. Complexity is the enemy of progress. When you spread yourself or your team too thin, you risk burnout, confusion, and diminished results. By simplifying and clarifying priorities, you create the focus and alignment necessary for meaningful achievement. Be relentless in cutting through the noise, and don't be afraid to say no to distractions that pull you away from your goals. Simplicity is not about doing less for its own sake. It's about creating the conditions for doing better. Focus on what truly matters, and you'll amplify your impact. Conclusion. The lessons of Bill Campbell are a masterclass in leadership grounded in humanity. His success was not due to extraordinary intellect or groundbreaking strategies, but his unwavering commitment to people, trust, and growth. His coaching philosophy demonstrates that business success and personal connection are not just compatible, but inseparable. As you internalize his lessons, remember that leadership is not about wielding authority, but empowering others to achieve their best. To continue building on Campbell's wisdom, read Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek and Multipliers by Liz Wiseman, which delve deeper into how great leaders cultivate thriving teams. Never settle for mediocrity in leadership. Embrace the responsibility to inspire, challenge, and uplift others every single day. The end.